So today, we're going to talk about your DNA. And not DNA in your typical sense, but we're going to get to that. Are we excited? All right, let's get started. What is your DNA? I encourage you to think about who you are and how it matches with what you do. My goal for today is to strike home 3 messages. Number 1, help you figure out what your DNA is. Number 2, show how your DNA makes up who you are. And number 3, connect your skills together with your DNA. What is your DNA? I'm not talking about genetics or chromosomes here. I want to talk about your likes, your interests, your passions. What gets you going? What gets you excited? What makes you, you? Do you like to cook? Do you like to dance? Do you like sports? I think you can see where I'm going here. And basically, I want to drive home this message. Once we know who you are and what you like, your choices become a lot clearer. I like this quote from Abraham Lincoln. It is, "Whatever you are, be a good one. Whatever you are, be a good one." I'd like to share with you a macro look at my path. My path that started at university all the way to my journey of being where I am today, which is the co-founder of Lug. My husband and Jason and I, we started a bag company, a travel bag and accessory company. And this is where we are today. But a lot of decisions along the way, and a lot of me following my DNA is how I got to where I am. So this chart shows you where I started with my schooling, followed by my path to what I studied, followed to my journey through co-op and all the different work placements, and also finally to taking the entrepreneurial leap, to starting my own business, which ultimately led me to meeting my husband, which ultimately led me to Lug. And the crazy thing is that I think about is that any decisions along the way really affected my path. Any divergence could have maybe changed the outcome greatly. Fortunately, by following my DNA and my passions, it has led me to some amazing opportunities, and I'd like to share a few of them with you. The first is Carrie Underwood. Everybody who knows who Carrie Underwood is? Yay! Well, I happen to be a big Carrie Underwood fan. So much so that I actually design our bags a lot to her music. So one afternoon, I was literally Googling to see where Carrie was going to be performing next. I wanted to see if she was coming to Canada. Well, it turns out 2 summers ago, she was coming to a country music festival in Ottawa. And I thought, wow, she's coming to Canada, and what a great way. Maybe we could marry our company and get involved with this event. So I contacted the organizers, and I asked if there's any way that we can get involved. And before I knew it, we ended up being the presenting sponsor of a huge country music festival, which led us to the opportunity of meeting Carrie, one of my idols. How cool is that? I outfitted her with some of our bags, and lo and behold, randomly, photos started showing up on the internet of Carrie Underwood carrying her lug bag while she's traveling. How cool. Another example of how following my DNA has led me to some amazing opportunities is through charitable initiatives. Charitable initiatives, for me, is really important. I love to connect myself with programs that give back. And for me, the stars aligned when we received a call from the Chief of Sponsorship from the Canadian Paralympic Committee. She was an avid traveler and actually a user of our product. And she thought, we need to support our Paralympic athletes. They're traveling to Vancouver, and how can we support their endeavors? So we started working together and thinking about, what synergies do we have here? So Jason and I designed a collection of bags exclusively for these Paralympic athletes. We also sold them through our retailers where proceeds would benefit their cause. The great thing from this experience for us was that 6 of our staff was able to go to the games in Vancouver. What an experience. The chance to go to the Olympic Games in Vancouver on Canadian soil. How cool. Thirdly, another way how I have connected my DNA through my path, which has ultimately led to another great opportunity, is Oprah. Oprah Winfrey, woman icon that I greatly admire. You can imagine our excitement when we received a phone call from the editors from her magazine asking for us to send in a sample of one of our products to be reviewed for consideration to make her coveted O list. Now, this was back in 2006. This was when our company was just kind of getting going, just getting a little bit of steam. We knew that if we made this list, what an impact it would be on our little company. We crossed every finger and every toe. But fortunately, luck was on our side, and our product made the list. It literally changed our company. Since then, we've been fortunate to have 3 additional products featured on this list. One most recently was earlier this year, and through that, it led us to another opportunity. They invited us to participate in Oprah's big event of the year, which is the OU event, where 6,000 of Oprah fans convene and learn about how to live your best life. It was ultimately an amazing experience, which led us to meeting Oprah herself. So the message that I want to drive home here is, I'm just an everyday girl. But I followed my DNA, I followed my passions, and it's led me onto the path that I have been on. So I encourage you to listen to your heart and follow your callings. You never know, you can achieve anything. I mean, look at the people that I've been able to brush shoulders with. From the great Joe Carter to Charles Barkley, Sheryl Crow, even the Biebs have been spotted carrying our bag. Woohoo! Oh, going backwards. So again, just driving home this message. Once we know who we are and what we like, our choices become much clearer. Once you feel like you're in your own skin and you're following your own path, you'll feel good. It will become more fluid, and you'll know that you're making the right decisions for yourself. So number 2, how does your DNA make up who you are? So I want to zoom in at some pivotal moments in my path, critical moments that I know that if I made a different decision, I would certainly have a different outcome. The first is, which university should I go to? Well, I remember just at the end of high school, having 3 acceptance letters in front of me. I had Waterloo to choose from, University of Toronto, and Ryerson. I have to admit, Waterloo was at the bottom of my list. And why? My mom worked at U of T. And if I went to U of T, a lot of my tuition would have been covered. You can imagine the pressure I had from my parents. Well, in a chance visit to Waterloo, I came here to visit a friend, and I actually fell in love with the campus. Something called to me at Waterloo, and I knew that I needed to go to school here. So I enrolled in fine arts. I had so many creative interests. I had an eye for design, but I'd never had formal design or art schooling. So I thought that this is where I needed to go. What have we learned so far? Again, so I'm going to keep driving this home, but once we know who we are and what we like, our choices become much clearer. Number 2, your DNA affects what decisions you should make. How many of you have friends who, seemingly have a great career, earn a big fat paycheck, but ultimately always seem to be searching because they're not totally satisfied? I encourage you to just look at yourself and think about the factors of what's influencing you in your decisions. Ultimately, if you're not listening to yourself, then who or what are you listening to? Number 3, connecting your skills together with your DNA. All right, now this is where it got exciting for me. This is where I shifted gears. So, Waterloo student in fine arts, I quickly realized that my art was not so fine. Wow, I was not in my own skin. I was so uncomfortable, and I felt very anxious. I knew that I wasn't on the right path. I remember sitting in the computer science lab in the wee hours of the morning, thinking, gosh, there must be another program here for me, something that meets me, that will be a good fit. So really what I was doing is looking at my DNA, looking at my interests, looking at, other areas of me that would be reflected in another program. I found that in recreation and leisure studies, in applied health sciences. Immediately, I felt it was a fit. I felt more comfortable around the people, it was very approachable. It catered to a lot of my other interests. And finally, it offered me co-op. And co-op would enable me to pave my way through school and also enable me to explore my various interests in different businesses. Now, the cause and effect of listening to your DNA. One of my co-op placements was actually a very pivotal moment for me in my career path. Now, at the time, recreation and leisure studies student, I had a lot of friends that were engineers and computer science students. Those were my buddies that I hung around with. So I'm always listening about the technical jargon and what the latest IPO was and, knowing what company was next to be the big hot thing. This was right before the bubble burst, by the way. So it was exciting. It was hot time. I wanted to get in on the action. So through the co-op process, I started giving in my resume to probably not typical places that a recreation student would be applying to. As you can imagine, my resume got pushed to the side. I always found myself in the final rounds just trying to get an interview, but I was persistent. I didn't want to give up. I knew where I wanted to get, and I just kept going for it. Fortunately, TEDx, which was ClearNet at the time, came late to the party too. So I was fortunate that I actually landed an interview, and pretty much on the spot, I had a placement. It was in product development in their accessories division. I didn't know then that this would actually affect my future as it has. I was working in the accessories division, dealing with batteries, chargers, black leather cases, and I thought, gosh, this is kind of boring. And I thought, this is where the entrepreneurial came out in me. And I thought, hey, there is an opportunity here. There's something that I could create that would, I think, resonate with students like me. So, upon graduation, I decided to take the entrepreneurial plunge. And I started learning about manufacturing, learning how to design, and I started coming up with my own cellular cases and PDA cases at the time we were calling them. And I think I'm dating myself. But you know what? Through my path, I always kept great relationships with co-op, with all my placements. And I encourage you, keep relationships. You never, ever know where your paths are going to cross. And so that was my plan B. If my entrepreneurial adventure didn't get me anywhere and I fell on my face, I knew that I had, some great connections in the back that I could fall back on. So I took the dive. And fortunately for me, I landed my first purchase order with TEDx. Ironic. So that gave me the gusto to kind of move forward. So, let your DNA guide you in the choices that you make. Before I want to go to my closing points, I just really want to strike that home again about relationships. Look at your DNA, and as you're going along here, you're going to meet some very interesting people in your journey. Keep those relationships because you never know where they're going to intersect again down the road. Perfect example, my boss from 724 Solutions, when I was a co-op student, well, she's now our spokesperson for the shopping channel. She is also a model in our catalog. So her path led her down a certain way, mine went one way, and we ended up coming back full circle. And it's great. It's been a great, great relationship. So here are some takeaway points. Don't ignore your DNA. It makes you who you are. For example, somebody who faints at the sight of blood, should they go on to become a doctor? You tell me. Fun and interests are such an important part of what motivates us. I have fun at work. I'm excited about, where we could take our company and how I can align it with my certain interests and everything like that. Have fun with what you're doing. We should do what we love. It sounds cliche, but it's so true. And why not? If the chicken had no interest in crossing the road, it would have never made it to the other side. Be that chicken and figure out what motivates you to get to the other side. Your path has, an endless horizon. Just start thinking about who you are and what excites you and help you get on your path to success. Once you know who you are and what you like, your choices become much clearer. So finally, believe in yourself, believe in your DNA, and believe in your skill sets, and you will be on your path to fulfillment. Thank you.